Would you like to play a game?
Megaman 3, 1990. This was actually the first Megaman game that I played as a kid. I played it with my brother. It was awesome. I really kind of enjoyed a lot of what happened with Mega Man 3. It kind of had, like, Mega Man first started being able to slide, which is kind of neat. We didn't Mega Buster yet. That's Mega Man 4. I know people always talk about the Mega Buster, but in Mega Man 3 it had like, it was kind of known for being a pretty hard game, although I felt it was actually a little easier than its predecessors. I mean, it's pretty hard to beat Mega Man 1. The thing is that a lot of people in America, they hadn't really played Mega Man 1, so they probably didn't have as much of reference of the older Mega Mans. I have been playing a lot of Mega Man lately, so that might be a factor. Keiji Inafune, he's sort of the Shigeru Miyamoto, the guy who invented all the Super Mario Brothers, Donkey Kong, that kind of things. Keiji Inafune, he was the guy who invented Mega Man, essentially, as far as the artistic, creative design with it and that kind of stuff. He wasn't really very happy with this game. He sort of felt it was like sort of a rushed game, right? Because it came out just a couple years after Mega Man 2, and games took a while to make and that kind of stuff. And he just felt like it was rushed. Like, the company, Capcom, was just like, hey, we got to make a new game. Mega Man 2 is awesome. We got to jump on it. That kind of stuff. Although I still felt it was great. He was proud of the sliding effect. Technically, that was like pretty awesome. There was so in the Mega Man games, as kind of said before, is the different Mega Bosses that Mega Man fights. Those aren't actually created by Inafune, and they're not actually created by Capcom. They're created by the fans of Mega Man, right? Well, more specifically, the Japanese fans of Mega Man. So all these kids, probably adults too, but kids would send in these little drawings of like different characters that they thought that Mega Man could beat, and then Capcom would sort of pick out 8 of those characters, and maybe same on occasion, but they would pick them, and they would use them for like the different characters. So when you look at the Mega Bosses, those are actually envisioned by the eyes of children, which is kind of amazing. So there were 50,000 of them, and for at least Mega Man 3 that they made submissions, and we got 8 of them. Okay, so now, so we got a little backstory, right? Here's the kind of game story. Dr. Wily, the main bad guy, right? He's actually kind of a good guy now. Dr. Wily and Dr. Light, they're kind of teaming up together to create this big giant world robot called Gamma. Gamma is kind of like a peacekeeping robot. But unfortunately, Dr. Light and Dr. Wily kind of teamed up with these robots. So these robots are a little different, right? Like the first robots in Mega Man 1, they were only created by Dr. Light, the kind of good guy, the guy who created Mega Man, right? The guy in the left. They were created by Dr. Light, while in Mega Man 2, the Robot Masters were actually created by Dr. Wily. So you kind of got to see a little bit of each guy's style, and then these robots were created by both of them. Unfortunately, of course, the robots just sort of flip out and go evil. They steal, I guess Gamma, that giant robot that they're going to try to piece robot they're going to try to build, need these 8 power crystals to sort of be built, and those robots steal it. And there's no real explanation why. So Mega Man must kind of jump in to win the day, etc. Along the way, we've got the mysterious Brickman. Right, this guy is sort of like he's actually Proto-Man, right? They call him Brickman first, then he kind of ends up being Proto-Man, which is his sort of official name more across the games. And he's what he is he's the he was actually created around the same time that Mega Man was, actually sort of a prototype, since Proto-Man. He was a prototype of Mega Man, but he had like they'll kind of talk about a little bit of mystery in the game, but he essentially has this like fatal flaw in his like heart, i.e. energy, nuclear reactor, and Wily sort of blackmails him because Wily's not really a good guy, he still isn't, but they act like Wily's a good guy, right? So at least for a little while, we're led to believe that Wily's being okay, but you already know he's going to show up that he's not a good guy, so it's just sort of how it goes. But we're sort of given this mystery about Proto-Man, where you don't know if he's a good guy, you don't know if he's a bad guy, right? He just kind of keeps showing up, right? You have to kind of figure out who is he. Also, Rush makes his first appearance in this game. He's a little happy-go-lucky guy If you look at my website or all my team's websites, I know I didn't mention earlier on, but is would you like to play a game.tv or willtopag.com? It'll reference you back over to it. You can actually see kind of this video and other ones of the other Mega Man games, and also of me kind of playing Snake Man and like beating Snake Man. And I use Rush a lot because Rush is pretty helpful. But he kind of replaces the utility powers in the games, and you kind of get cool Rush, which is kind of awesome. All right, so on to the show. All right, Mega Man 3, awesome. So you got the dark powers. You don't know if who the bad guy is. I guess that's Gamma, right? The giant robot. And I actually really liked a lot of the artistic direction of the game. Like Gemini Man had this sort of like spacey. They're like, so you see these little egg things on the sides. And it's like kind of futuristic stuff, and I don't know, they were improving the technology. You remember that all the original Mega Man games were still in the same system, right? The 8-bit Nintendo. But at the same time, they kind of became more refined, better styles. All the classic characters are there, but things get better, although Mega Man does seem to be, as one knows, so interesting. The Robot Masters. So we got Hardman, right? He essentially has like not that word. He's got a rocket punch, right? So he just kind of fires at it, and he's sort of like underwater, so he's kind of the underwater guy, and then he sort of jumps up and down and crunches on the ground, and you sort of have to deal with that, right? But yeah, he shoots his little rocket punch, jumps around the shakes. Then we got Magnet Man. Magnet Man, I think, is one of the cooler guys. He shoots a magnet, and what the magnet will do is it'll shoot forward, and then it'll, whatever it's trying to hit, it'll like L, and it'll like turn, and it'll hit that one thing. It's like electromagnetic. I mean, one thing to remember is that one thing about Mega Man is that it's all robots. Everything is robots. So even though stuff looks like animals, it's really just all robots. And so having a electromagnet gun is pretty helpful. You know, I don't know if his power would have worked against like Woodman, right? Because Woodman would have been all wood, but you know, he's from another game anyways, so we don't worry about him when it comes to it. But yeah, kind of badass. So we also got Sparkman. You kind of see the little stuff on the left. Sparkman was kind of neat, where he's sort of funny, where he's like, look, no hands, right? Like, look, Ma, no hands. He's got no hands. He's just got these like giant spike things, and they sort of based him off, or some Japanese child, right? Based him off a power socket. So he's sort of like, you know, he's a spark shock discharge, right? And he shoots like balls of electrical energy at you, and yeah, it's sort of funny. So I guess he's based off of a Japanese power socket, maybe, right? Okay. Shadow Man was not built by Dr. Light or Dr. Wily. He's the ninja, right? The Shadow Blade is ninja muffler, or whatever it is. But he's the ninja robot, and Dr. Wily had actually just found him. There's some speculation, at least in the lore, that he's actually like an alien robot. But Dr. Wily found him and reprogrammed him, and that's how we kind of fight him. Yeah. This is probably the worst Top Man. The worst Robot Master. I think he's my most hated of all Robot Masters. Because he's based off of a top, right? Like, he's not Bazooka Man. He's not Shotgun Man. He's not Knife Man. Or even Snake Man, but it's pretty cool. Right? He's based off of a top. So what he does is he just sort of spins around, and he spins around on the screen. And his weakness is Hardman's rocket punch. So essentially, even like maybe in FNA, like he didn't design the characters, but maybe even he wanted to punch Top Man. So he's like, you know what? Let's like rocket punch, take him out. You know, just punch it, get him in the face. Bam. Yeah, he's got wheels. Yeah, that's Top Man. You can read up on him on the internet or something. Snake Man, on the other hand, total props to him. Right? He's a really unique character. He's the first animal-based bad guy, right? As far as the Robot Masters. If you go to World of Pag, TV, whatever, you'll see me play his level, and I kind of fight him. And the whole level is like all snake themed, right? I thought that was kind of novel. You know, like he's even got like his snake hat, snakeskin hat, you know, kind of thing. And yeah, it's like you base a guy off of a cobra, right? You just sort of shoot snakes all the time, and they fight walls, and sort of unique power, and he just, I don't know, he's great. Needle Man, he's got kind of a uniqueness to itself, where if you kind of look on the right, in the upper right hand corner, he's got kind of like a needle hammer, like his little hat basically pops out and just like stabs you, and that's really his main thing. He shoots his spikes too. He's like a needle machine gun that he has, and I kind of feel like he's one of the more badass characters, or he's kind of more like, in the idea of him actually being a battle robot, he'd be pretty formidable, right? Because in hand-to-hand combat, he shoots his spike thing that can spike right through you, and he essentially has like 2 machine guns on his sides, and so that kind of helps him along as far as his war battle techniques. Gemini Man, he doubles up, and so the first half of the battle, he sort of jumps and tries to fire at you, and you kind of have to deal with him jumping and firing, and then after that, he shoots his little laser because it's all mirrors, right? He shoots his laser that bounces off walls. He's pretty straightforward. Snake Man's power takes him out, right? And very pretty simple. So once you get those guys, right? See, he's killed by Snake, right? Snake's takes him out, right? Once you kind of get those guys, right? As all Mega Man games go, right? You go through the first half where you get those powers and you're all stoked to have them. You're like, oh great, so now what, right? There's a bonus round! It's not Dr. Wily's Castle, it's this guy, right here. So this guy he's sort of like amalgam robot, that's really what he is. He just sort of is, he's, I don't know, whatever his name is. He's who cares? Because you just sort of get a little bit of all the robots and stuff. Because really what it is remember how I was talking about, how Woodman, that kind of stuff, whatever, is you actually go through Needle, Gemini, Smart Shadows, you see here. You actually go through their levels again, but this time the levels are a little harder, a little different. And then you got to fight this guy. This guy's Doc Robot, right? Essentially, he's Amalgam Robot, right? Frankenstein, whatever you want to call it, but I think Amalgam Robot's kind of where it is. Where he's got like a drill, he's got a rocket, he's got a little bit of different guys, he's got kind of some weird skull head thing, right? And what he does is he sort of takes the powers of the original Plot Point Mystery. They never really explain him. But he does have the powers of each of the bosses from Mega Man 2. So you kind of get to see him, see here? You get to fight all those, you get to fight against all those powers again. So it's like you get to play a little bit of Mega Man 2 in Mega Man 3. And then of course, we've got Wily's Castle, because what's a Mega Man game without Wily's Castle, right? That's what it's all about, right? That's the show, when it comes to it. So we're back on here, right? And you kind of fight through the level. You got a little bit of upgrades. This castle. You fight this guy. This guy is called the Kamgoro Maker, right? He kind of goes around the water, and the little turtle kind of flies around. And the turtle's kind of cool. Like, I think they started doing a little animal stuff a little bit. The turtle's kind of cool in that he's a turtle, but he's also a robot. So I think like the water came in through the vents at the top of his shell, and then would like shoot at the back, and that would kind of help him fire along, which is just kind of a little bit that they couldn't just make imaginary characters. They actually had to think of them as like robots, because this is Japan, right? These are from Japan. Japan loves robots, so they have their own little stuff, and they want the robots to seem sort of functional, which is just kind of fun. Okay, then remember this guy? He comes back. Yellow Devil, right? He was from the first one. In the first Mega Man, if you kind of go back and watch the video on it, is or played Mega Man 1, is he was friggin' impossible. Just impossible to beat. This time around, it was the only time I had to like sort of twink anything at all, really. Like even then I was within the game, but as far as like the way I beat him. But this guy, I can beat him no problem, right? Mega Man 3, not a problem. Considerably easier. They just thought he was like impossible. So Triple Threat Mega Man, right? You kind of get to fight against holograph Mega Mans. They're kind of cool, right? Take them out. I think my favorite thing in Mega Man games, or one of, right? So what's really great about Mega Man 3 is that you kind of got to like fight the 8 bad guys, and you got to, from Mega Man 3, then fight the 8 bad guys from Mega Man 2, and then you go back with all your powers, and then you got that little like kind of, what's kind of like a hologram room, where you kind of jump between all the hologram rooms, you have to beat them all in one set, then you get to fight these guys again. So that's pretty awesome, right? You have to economize your powers and do stuff, and I don't know, I get to hang out with Snake Man again, hang out with Spark Man, you know, Magnet Man. So we get to fight this thing. This is Dr. Wily's machine number 3. It sort of spikes around and spikes on the ground and creates holes and fires at you. And sometimes it just lands and tries to crush you. And I don't know, it was okay. And of course, right, because if you remember in the beginning what I was talking about is the peace robot that was called Gamma. Of course, Wily takes Gamma and we get to fight the Gamma bot. I know there's no right side, I just couldn't find a picture with it. But the Gamma bot, he tries to fight you. Dr. Wily, I think, pops up on the top or whatever, and you sort of have to jump around on him. And he's a giant robot, but he was kind of a breeze, actually. So, but, you know, that kind of beat the game. That finished it off. Dr. Wily's Castle, Mega Man 3. If you want to see this and more, go to Would You Like to Play a Game.tv or worldtopag.com. Right, you can actually find it to link to all the games and everything and enjoy. You'll see me playing all the Mega Man games and doing these presentations and other games. And my gang, we do lots of other games and different things, old school, new school, everything. I'll see you there.